Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the last session of the conference. This session will deal with strengthening ombudsman function through cooperation among ombudsman institutions. And I'm delighted to introduce the chair of this session, Ms. Diane Welborn. Ms. Welborn has served as ombudsman at the Joint Office of Citizen Complaints in Ohio, U.S. since July 1919. She is now the second vice president of the board of directors of the International Ombudsman Institute, a member of the board of directors for legal aid of Western Ohio and advocates for basic legal equality, and a member of the board of directors of the Five Rivers Health Center. Ms. Welborn has also served several terms on the executive committee of the board of directors of the United States Ombudsman Association. Now, please join me in welcoming Ms. Welborn with a warm applause.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final session of the 2014 Ombudsman Global Conference. I want to join others in offering my thanks to the Honorable Lee Sung-bo and his very capable staff for such a well-designed and well-executed conference. And I think that just before I was introduced and this session began, this room was felt very festive, with many exchanges of gifts, photographs being taken, people exchanging cards, and I think that that is quite a great statement about what we have done together here for the past 2 days. So thank you for making it possible for all of us. I am very pleased to moderate this session because furthering cooperation among ombudsmen and their institutions is one of my personal favorite topics and has been for many years. Cooperation among ombudsman institutions has helped to bring Sharpening Your Teeth, Andre Marin's training session, to ombudsmen around the globe. And cooperation in regional meetings of the IOI have produced inspirational and educational conferences such as this one in all parts of the world. I truly look forward to our presentations, so we're going to go ahead and begin. Our first speaker today is His Excellency Nasser Siraj. The curriculum vitae of His Excellency includes the position of the head of the Tehran Judicial Complex, the head of criminal courts in Tehran, a member of the Deputy Council of the Supreme Court, Deputy to the General Prosecutor, and currently President, the General Inspection Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Please join me in giving a warm welcome as he begins his presentation.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ریاست محترم کنفرانس، همکاران گرامی، خانم‌ها و آقایان، ابتدا لازم می‌دانم که از ملت، دولت و ریاست محترم و اعضای کمیسیون مبارزه با فساد کره جنوبی صمیمانه به لحاظ مهمان نوازی گرمی که داشتن و اجرای خوب کنونسیون صمیمانه تشکر کنم.
In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at the outset to extend my sincere appreciation to the people and government of the Republic of Korea, and also my special thanks to the head of the ACRC and his staff for organizing and hosting this event and granting me the opportunity to address it.
با تشکر از زمانی که برای سخنرانی در اختیار این جانب قرار گرفت، باید اعلام نمایم که بدون شک حضور در مجامع بین المللی با هدف تبادل آرا و اندیشه ها در مورد هر مسئله‌ای از مسائل عمومی فرصتی مغتنم محسوب می شود. اما ارزش این فرصت زمانی که بحث از هماندیشی مسئولان نهادهای آمبودزمانی در خصوص موضوعاتی همچون پاسخگویی به نیازهای زمانه، بهبود کیفیت خدمات عمومی، افزایش اعتماد، تقویت کارایی در سایه پیشرفت‌های تکنولوژیک، به اشتراک گذاری نتایج عملکرد نهادهای ضد فساد، نقش نهادهای آمبودزمانی در عملکرد واسطه‌ها در تضادهای اجتماعی، ریشه‌کنی، بی‌عدالتی و افزایش همکاری‌ها در میان باشد. به مراتب بیشتر خواهد بود، زیرا ارزش ذاتی این موضوعات در کنار تنوع اندیشه‌ها و تجربه‌ها محصولی قابل اجرا و ارجاع را به ارمغان می‌آورد.
In general, participating in international conferences has deep importance since they serve as a unique platform for sharing knowledge and experience in various areas of concern. The present conference, however, is of particular significance as it brings together the ombudsman institutions from different countries in the region. This opportunity is giving us the chance to expound on issues such as contemporary needs, quality of public services, efficiency in light of progressive technologies, lesson learned, mediatory role of ombudsmen in addressing social conflicts, injustice eradication, and technical cooperation projects among members. It's evident that collective thinking's multiplicity of voices and ideas will result in practical and concrete solutions. Distinguished delegates, our world in 21st century is marked, more than anything else, by rapid changes in all areas. The pace of developments is speeding up, accelerating to the point where no country can escape it. The wide scope of changes from theories and paradigms to globalization, all-to-all relations and emerging actors in the form of networks indicate that achieving our goals through traditional means will not be easy. It's undoubted that such macro-environmental changes will directly or indirectly influence micro-environment. Our ever-changing world is even challenging the contemporary governments who are still considered the unrivaled champions of authority and traditional policymakers. The birth of NGOs, private sector's growing interest to involve in decision-making processes, the emergence of social networks as many-to-many communication tools. Also, virtual world in parallel and as a rival to the real world are among the major developments that have driven the governments to start thinking about going through certain changes. These changes include their structure, performance, and positioning. This in turn can generate positive pulses within the society and its components. Structural changes in public agencies range from developing new ones, omitting the old, or merging the exciting, to which the ombudsman institutions need to design suitable responses based on what I call active confirming mechanisms, or ACM. Active confirming mechanism, or ACMs, are mainly characterized by their proactive nature, which allows for a dynamic confirmation. ACMs should bear the following characteristics to enable the ombudsman associations to precisely identify the changes in the government and learn from their counterparts' experiences in this regard and apply them in their own environment after localization. The features are as follows. 1. Access to the documentation of changes and their nature. 2. Access to experiences on how to face the changes. 3. access to practical alternatives in order to reach the best. Triple features of above-mentioned active confirming mechanism can enable ombudsmen to comprehend experiences of their counterparts in the sphere of public sector changes, and also after localizing those experiences, set up them in their own country. The prerequisite for designing effective ACM is establishing close cooperation among ombudsman institutions. Although currently they enjoy an acceptable level of cooperation, it does not seem to suffice for meeting ACM objectives. Effective communication provides the chance for ombudsman institutions to learn from each other's experiences on how to deal with changes in different geographical locations. This, in turn, can serve as a driving force for demanding positive changes or transforming negative changes to positive, which indicates the very dynamism in ACMs.
همکاران ارجمند، خانم‌ها و آقایان، اگرچه ما را از جوامع مختلف با نظام‌های سیاسی، اقتصادی و فرهنگی مختلفی کنار یکدیگر جمع شده ایم، اما تقویت ارتباطات میان آمبودزمانی می‌تواند این تنوع را به عاملی مثبت و پشتوانه‌ای برای سازکارهای تطابقی فعال تبدیل نماید. تجربه یک آمبودزمان در برخورد با تغییرات بخش عمومی در کشور خویش، زمانی که به شکل مستند در اختیار آمبودزمان‌های دیگر قرار گیرد، امکان ایجاد سازکارهای تطابقی فعال در میان آنها فراهم خواهد شد و این یک موقعیت بزرگ برای نهادهای آمبودزمانی محسوب می شود، زیرا دیگر آمبودزمان‌ها قادر خواهند بود تجربه یاد شده را به یک سازکار تطابقی فعال تبدیل نموده و از آن برای پیشگیری از بروز تغییرات نامطلوب مطالبه تغییرات مثبت و مطلوب و سرانجام فشار برای تبدیل تغییرات نامطلوب به تغییرات مثبت بهره جویند. به همین خاطر پیشنهاد اصلی این جانب به همکاران در راستای ایجاد سازکارهای تطابقی فعال بازاندیشی درباره دلایل عدم ارتقای سطح ارتباطات همکاری‌های آمبودزمانی به فراخور پیشرفت‌های صورت گرفته در حوزه‌های مختلف است.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, despite political, economic, and cultural differences, improving inter-ombudsman communications can transform these differences into strength to support implementation of ACMs. By sharing documented experiences earned by an ombudsman institution while coping with the changes in the public sector, the ground is paved for developing ACMs among them. This is a huge success for ombudsman institutions, as other ombudsmen can localize the same experience and use it as a solution to prevent the undesired changes, demand positive ones, or use it as a lever to transform negative changes to positive. That is why, as my main recommendation to this conference, I would like to invite my distinguished colleagues to review the past and identify the reasons why the level of communication among members has not been upgraded in parallel to the progress made in different areas. Excellencies, our country is currently moving towards government downsizing, or better said, delegating some of its activities, particularly economic ones, to the private sector and foreign partners in the light of Supreme Leader's guidance. The trend is being pursued in the new government as well. It is evident that such structural and functional transformation create new responsibilities for the state inspection Organization, General Inspection Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. As an ombudsman institution, the GIO has to develop a clear plan to ensure that citizenry rights are observed with view to the new situation. While the experience can serve as a lesson for other ombudsman institutions, Iran can also use or learn from those of others in the past. It is unfortunate that such valuable educational opportunities are confined to holding ombudsman seminars and conferences similar to the conference we are attending today, while there are plenty more channels and tools that can be effectively used to share information, experiences, and new ideas which can guide ombudsman to recognize active confirming mechanism. Some of those are as follows. New ICT technology, using the facilities of cyberspace, training courses and ombudsman exchange programs, joint and independent research, study and book translations in the area of ombudsmanship, theories and practices, establishing and strengthening an ombudsman academy in order to update members' knowledge regionally and internationally.
خوشبختانه نکاتی که مورد اشاره قرار گرفت بعضاً در برخی عناوین نشست حاضر به چشم می‌خورد که جای خوشحالی و تشکر است، اما بیش از آن که خوشحالی خود را تنها از وجود عناوین و الفاظ ابراز نمایم، باید راه‌های عملی به اشتراک گذاری تجارب در زمینه‌های مختلف از جمله رویارویی با تغییرات نهادهای دولتی با هدف دستیابی به سازکارهای تطابقی فعال و اجرای آن از سوی آمبودسمان‌ها را مورد بررسی و سپس اقدام جدی قرار دهیم. از توجه شما به مطالب ارائه شده تشکر می‌نمایم.
It is a pleasure for me personally to note that those points I address in my speech today have already been included in some of the objectives defined for the conference. However, it is important not to be satisfied with the mere presence of such catchy phrase and look to develop concrete and practical measures to share experience in different areas, particularly on how to face the changing public sector, develop and implement ACMs. At the end, I thank your attention.
Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your highlighting the speed of change, the possibilities from active conforming mechanisms, the importance and the transformation possibilities of sharing experiences and the use of new technology and publications. And we are greatly appreciative for your closing slideshow showing many of our colleagues at the Asian Ombudsman Association meeting. That was delightful. Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Gunther Krauter. He's the Secretary General of the International Ombudsman Institute. Mr. Krauter holds a doctorate in law and served as a member of the Austrian Parliament from 1991 until 2013. On July the 1st, 2013, he became a member of the Austrian Ombudsman Board and Secretary General of the IOI. So we want to congratulate him on completing his first year as Secretary General of the IOI in that important position. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Krauter as he begins his presentation.
Thank you very much, Diane, for this really nice introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, it's a big honor and pleasure for me to be here and have the possibility to speak to you. First of all, general thoughts about international cooperation between ombudsman institutions, then the current situation from the view of the IOI, and finally, future prospects. Generally, the exchange of experience and sharing knowledge is very important and extremely necessary for the development of organizations like ombudsman institutions. There's no doubt successful ombudsman institutions are permanent learning institutions. It doesn't matter if institutions from very different countries, with very different cultures and very different legal backgrounds work together. In my opinion, especially very different institutions from all over the world stimulate each other to develop creative ideas, surprising insights, and unexpected conclusions. And so each bilateral, regional, or international contact and cooperation is helpful, fruitful, and of value for the organizations, officials, and staff. And of course, for the global idea of ombudsmanship. So we cannot have enough systemic frameworks, and we have to foster and support all kinds of serious and professional international organizations who deal with ombudsman matters. I want to concentrate on the IOI, which currently covers 160 ombudsman institutions from around 90 countries all over the world. In order to foster cooperation among ombudsman institutions, the International Ombudsman Institute was established in 1978 in Alberta in Canada. The IOI is an independent, non-governmental, and non-political organization. It is the only global organization for the cooperation of independent ombudsman institutions on the national, regional, and municipal level. The purpose of the IOI is to contribute to respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, adherence to the rule of law, effective democracy, administrative justice, and procedural fairness in public organizations, improving public services, open and accountable government, and access to justice. The IOI is organized in 6 regional chapters: Africa, Asia, Australasia and Pacific, Europe, the Caribbean and Latin America, and North America. Each region is represented by a regional president and several directors on the IOI board of directors. Since the last World Conference in Wellington in 2012, the Federal Ombudsman of Pakistan, Mr. Salmud Farooqi, serves as a regional president of Asia. Further directors are our host, the chair of the Anti-Corruption and Civil Rights Commission, Mr. Sungul Lee, and the Chief Ombudsman of Thailand, Ms. Panit Nitithanprapas. In its effort to focus on good governance and capacity building, the IOI mainly supports its member institutions threefold: training, research, and subsidies for regional projects. So far, hundreds of top staff from ombudsman institutions from around 40 countries worldwide have benefited from IOI trainings since 2009. In 2013 alone, 5 training seminars on 4 continents took place. Among the tailor-made training program, the IOI offers the Sharpening Your Teeth training course created by, as you know, Ontario Ombudsman Andre Marine, and the training initiative developed in collaboration with the famous Queen Margaret University of Edinburgh. In 2013, the IOI General Secretariat, together with the International Anti-Corruption Academy in Vienna, a United Nations-affiliated international organization providing anti-corruption education and research, developed a new training format. The training is specially directed towards investigate ombudsman staff of institutions with an anti-corruption mandate. About research, a main point. By funding research on ombudsman institutions, the IOI makes the concept of ombudsmanship widely known in the world of science. After publication of comparative research studies on European ombudsman institutions and ombudsman institutions in the Australasia and the Pacific region. The current main research project is dedicated to the Asian region. The University of Vienna is analyzing Asian ombudsman institutions by comparing the legal basis, the general mandates, and the activities of the individual ombudsman institutions. In the first project phase, the researchers will adapt the methodology employed by the other two studies to the Asian context. Based on an initial survey of data on the jurisdictions and institutions concerned, a comprehensive, largely pre-populated questionnaire will be submitted to the Asian institutes via the IOI General Secretariat. In the second phase, certain aspects of information received will be verified through follow-up contacts with your institutions. The third phase consists of a draft of the study based on the data collected, the respective legal frameworks, and the literature reviewed. The IOI expects to publish the study by the end of 2015. The IOI regards this project as a very important part of its work in facilitating the understanding of the role of ombudsman and the critical part it plays in jurisdictions' constitutional arrangements. Now moving to regional subsidies. It is a third pillar of support to IOI members, are the regional subsidies for projects. Over the past few years, a wide range of altogether 15 projects in different regions have been initiated. I would like to draw your attention to two projects in the Asian region, which were granted regional subsidies by the Board of Directors in 2013. The IOI is delighted to support the Punjab Ombudsman Institution in Pakistan in implementing a public awareness campaign. The Punjab Ombudsman is facing the problem that the population is not familiar enough with the office of the Ombudsman. Punjab citizens should benefit from speedy and inexpensive Ombudsman services and become more aware of their rights. The second project is dedicated to the rights of women and children and is carried out by the Office of the Ombudsman for the province of Sindh. The project comprises of three components: a seminar in Hyderabad on women's rights, a seminar in Lakhana on children's rights, and a capacity building initiative. The overall objective of this project is to enhance awareness of women's and children's rights at the grassroots level and to facilitate capacity building of the Sindh Ombudsman Secretariat and offices. Now I would like to turn to future prospects. Ladies and gentlemen, the IOI is supported by an increasing number of partner organizations in its efforts to foster international cooperation. In this context, the Institute was able to establish close working relations with valuable partners. For example, the IOI entered into a memorandum of understanding with the International Anti-Corruption Academy. This collaboration resulted in a successful training, as I mentioned before, for training format, which I have mentioned. Some IOI members, such as our host, the ACRC, or the Commission Against Corruption in Macau, have an explicit anti-corruption mandate. Although the institution of the Ombudsman generally was in the past not originally designed to fight corruption, but rather to address grievances relating to administrative issues. It naturally plays a complementary role. The Ombudsman disposes of a unique set of powers and tools which enable the institution to combat corruption and therefore improve the quality of governance. In addition to existing cooperation agreements, as the partnership, for example, with the African Ombudsman and Mediators Association. The IOI is currently working on a memorandum of understanding with the Latin American Ombudsman Institute, the ILO. And on occasion of the AOA board meeting and the IOI regional meeting held here the day before yesterday, the members discussed a proposal by the Chief Ombudsman of Thailand to set up a formal cooperation agreement between AOA and IOI. I'm very pleased to inform you today that this proposal was endorsed by the members present at this meeting. I look forward to developing the details of this memorandum of understanding, which will further strengthen the ties between AOA and IOI and bring Asian ombudsman institutions even closer to IOI. The IOI is also really delighted about the recent development in the relationship with the World Bank, with the objective of a more systematic engagement of World Bank support to ombudsman institutions. The World Bank has recently stated that it recognizes the wealth and value of the knowledge and experience produced by the IOI. Mr. Marcos Mendiburu, Senior Social Development Specialist at the bank and final speaker of the session, is one of the most committed and engaged supporters in the future prospects of close cooperation between the World Bank and the IOI. Marcos, my sincere thanks to you. And now I just want to give a few words about specific IOI policy fields in the future. Directed by the acting regional president of IOI Europe and Ombudsman of Ireland, Mr. Peter Tyndall, he was on the panel before, the IOI is working on a policy dealing with the current tendency of privatizing or outsourcing public services and its practical implications. Indeed, ombudsman institutions typically have all publicly provided services with their mandate. But when services are privatized, the form of redress often changes, and redress is not provided by the existing ombudsman anymore, but by a private sector ombudsman. In the worst case, access to redress is lost entirely. It is crucial that the jurisdiction of public services ombudsman is preserved and that comprehensive access to redress for all public services is provided by existing public services ombudsman. And so we all together have to join forces to protect our public mission for the citizens. A further issue in the policy field for ombudsman institutions could be data protection and data surveillance. In the context of large-scale surveillance and questions of data protection, the ombudsman, as a protector of fundamental rights, may play a vital role in the future. Surveillance activities often go unnoticed by the persons concerned, as people's basic human rights, such as the right to privacy, may be infringed without their knowledge. We have to discuss very seriously this potential mandate of ombudsman institutions in the future. In conclusion, distinguished colleagues, sharing experience and expertise among ombudsman institutions is particularly important in times of challenge to the ombudsman's role. The IOI is thus very pleased that for the very first time, the IOI World Conference will take place in the Asian region, generally hosted by the Office of the Ombudsman of Thailand. The 2016 conference will be dedicated to the topic Evolution of Ombudsmanship, exploring how ombudsman institutions have been tackling situations of change, evolution, and globalization in order to maintain its status as a protector of citizen rights. The conference will give ombudsman representatives and other stakeholders across the world the opportunity to exchange their experience and best practices. I'm looking forward to a very fruitful and productive World Conference of the IOI in 2016 in Bangkok. Ladies and gentlemen, you find more information about the IOI, about the region, the officials, the structure in the program book. And the homepage is very easy, theioi.org. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crowder, for outlining the purposes and structure of the International Ombudsman Institute and for highlighting the way it supports its membership through research, in this case the current project on the Asian Regional Comparative Study of Ombudsman Offices, the regional subsidies that have been granted to this region that are active and being pursued, and the memorandum of understanding that have been signed and that is in the works with the Asian Ombudsman Association. Thank you very much. Our final speaker is Mr. Marcus Mendeburu. He holds the position of Senior Social Development Specialist at the World Bank. He leads the Access to Information program of the World Bank Institution, and he has worked on initiatives to foster access to information in Latin America, South Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa. He supports the World Bank efforts of the Open Government Partnership and manages the knowledge component of the Global Partnership for Social Accountability. We are so pleased that Mr. Mendeburu reached out to the International Ombudsman Institute from the World Bank seeking partnership and activity, and I am pleased to have him on the panel. Please help me give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Diane, for that introduction, and I want to also express my gratitude to ACRC and Mr. Chairman for the invitation to be here with you all today. I'm very pleased to be here, in particular, given the topic of this conference, because it's very relevant for our governance work at the World Bank as we move or expand the work on governance, which was initially on anti-corruption, to a more work on accountability, and particularly looking at the relationship between citizen and state. And the topic or the title of this conference is about the relationship between ombudsman and citizens. And I think that the concept of trust is critical to the governance agenda and the relationship between state and citizens, and that's where I think our governance work is moving forward. Yet, before I start with my presentation, I want to manage some expectations here, because I would like to stress that our engagement with ombudsman institutions, at least at the World Bank, has been limited and ad hoc or non-systematic so far. Yet I'm hopeful that that will change thanks to the dialogue that we have with the International Ombudsman Institute, and there are some examples of World Bank support to ombudsman institutions around the world. We had provided support to ombudsman institutions in Peru, Timor, and more recently we are providing support in 4 countries. One of them is Pakistan, was mentioned earlier. But also from the region, we are supporting the ombudsman institution from the Philippines, as well as Jordan and Ethiopia, and I will discuss that further. I will be moving backward my presentation so you don't fall asleep. I decided to change the order of my slides a little bit. But just to say that the World Bank has been supporting development projects in several sectors, including, of course, public sector management. And initially, the work on public sector management concentrated or centered around improving internal management systems within the executive branch, because our main clients or counterparts at the World Bank are national governments. So they are our primary interlocutors, given that we give loans, we are a development bank. So, but this agenda on public sector management has expanded during the past decade and embraced a more expansive or comprehensive agenda, including governance and anti-corruption, with a focus mostly on transparency, right to information, access to information, and some work on accountability institutions, in particular Parliament and Supreme Audit institutions, given all the work we have on supporting financial management around the world. Yet, I would say a few years ago, the governance agenda has expanded, and also our work as a result of that, to include work on what we call demand for good governance or social accountability. And here we see the importance of the citizen voice and participation as key to this broader concept of governance. And as was discussed yesterday and today, we see the role of ombudsman institutions as key facilitators in enhancing citizen voice and participation in public affairs. So just to give you a little bit of background on how this concept has evolved, the definition of governance, and as a result, our work on this issue, and I hope that, as I said, as part of this, our engagement with ombudsman institutions at the country level as well as the global level with IOI will expand in the coming years. So, why is this important? Because I think that the mandates of ombudsman institutions, as we heard during the past 2 days, relate very much with many areas where the World Bank is engaged these days, including access to information or right information and transparency work, citizen participation, and accountability work. And of course, more recently, there has been an emphasis on what we call grievance redress mechanisms. Many of the World Bank funded projects, which are government projects, but the bank gives loans, must include complaints handling mechanisms for the beneficiaries of those projects in case the projects are not implemented as expected. So we are expanding the work on grievance redress mechanisms, and I think that that's an opportunity for broader future engagement with ombudsman institutions, as well as the work that we do with fragile and post-conflict states, where the rule of law is weak. So here the mediation powers and the recommendations powers of the ombudsman institutions, I think, are critical, as well as the work that we do on access to justice. So for us, as I said, it's not for you, but for the World Bank, it's an emerging agenda, the collaboration with ombudsman institutions. And this, I could say, was initially stressed in a document that was produced internally a few years ago, in 2011. It was called, titled, Demand for Good Governance, Companion Note to the Governance and Anti-Corruption Update Strategy of the World Bank, where this document stressed the importance of engaging with accountability institutions, referring to supreme institutions, judiciary, and ombudsman. But particularly, there was a reference to ombudsman. I think it was the first time that there was a clear reference to the work of ombudsman and the importance of the bank engaging with these institutions. And this, I would say, is a reflection of the recognition. There is a recognition that we need to move beyond this supply and demand dichotomies in governance reforms. We talk about supply reforms and demand-side reforms on governance, and there is this recognition that we need to move beyond that dichotomy and try to concentrate on what we call interfaces between supply and demand side stakeholders. And because as economists would use this expression, we don't think there is an invisible hand that will bring citizens and states together or supply and demand together. So we think that might be an opportunity to work with specific spaces or institutions such as the Ombudsman that could help build that bridge between the two sides, I could say. And yesterday we heard about ombudsman institutions being defined as citizen-centered, yet not anti-administration. And we also heard that ombudsman are communication bridges between state and citizens. So in a way, this reinforces this idea that in order to have impact on governance reforms, we have to look at and explore support on the interfaces between these two kind of dimensions, supply and demand, and promote collaboration and dialogue. And for that, as I said, we see ombudsman offices can provide that space for convergence between supply and demand. And this, in turn, could contribute to what Professor Jonathan Fox, who's now teaching at American University in Washington, but he's a very well-known scholar or researcher on accountability issues and accountability politics, as he called, refers to strategic social accountability, which one of the dimensions that he points out is the importance of promoting pro-accountability coalitions across state and citizens spectrum. Yet current efforts in this regard actually have been limited, and mostly, I would say, in the area of supremo institutions. And I'm going to be comparing the work that we do at the World Bank with supremo institutions, because they are another accountability institution where we have done much work. So, as I said, I'm going to move forward. If I'm coming back to this. Sorry, this is it. So, as I said, more recently with this concept of strategic social accountability, or looking at the interface between demand and supply, we have been looking at what some academics, particularly in Brazil, call co-production of control. And here this morning we heard about the ombudsman from Indonesia talking about social control. At the World Bank we talk about social accountability, which is, I understand is the same, but it's basically where civil society or citizens demand accountability from state institutions, in particular the executive branch. In the case of this concept of co-production of control, what is being discussed is basically how state accountability institutions can collaborate with civil society organizations demanding accountability. And so here the importance of articulating what some academics call horizontal accountability institutions, or independent accountability institutions, or state pro-accountability institutions, with social forms of oversight by citizens or in organized form like civil society organizations, or individually. And this concept has been used in Latin America, where I'm coming from, and there are some examples about this idea of civil society accountability institutions collaboration. In the case of collaboration between citizens or civil society organizations and ombudsman, I think Diane yesterday referred to an example from Argentina in the environmental sector, where the Ombudsman institution, together with the Supremo institution and the judiciary, so a few accountability institutions, but plus civil society organizations, both grassroots groups, but more professional NGOs, have been collaborating to enforce a decision by the judiciary on improving the environmental situation in the Riachuelo Basin in Greater Buenos Aires in Argentina. And there's also some other work that another political scientist from Argentina, Enrique Perusotti, has done in this regard on looking at the collaboration between ombudsman institutions and civil society organizations. And he talks about societalization of horizontal accountability, where civil society collaborates with accountability institutions, in this case, again, with the Ombudsman Office of Argentina, or Defensoría del Pueblo, to strengthen or to have a stronger voice to demand accountability from the executive. So, however, despite these examples of collaboration between civil society organizations and ombudsman institutions, I must say that so far what I have noticed is that this engagement is quite remains limited. And for us it's important because we have an agenda to support social accountability, and this is the next slide. As part of this Global Partnership Social Accountability Program that Diane mentioned when I was introduced, which is a facility to give grants to civil society organizations, and we have given around $22 million last year to a few civil society organizations, including from the region. There's one from Indonesia. We had a workshop recently in May in Washington, D.C., where we brought all the grantees. And we asked them about how they are collaborating with accountability institutions. There was a question about supremo institutions and another one on ombudsman institutions. And you can see there the 4 questions we ask, whether they are familiar or aware about the role and mandate of the Ombudsman institutions, whether they have used data reports from the Ombudsman institutions, whether they have filed complaints, or they have worked collaboratively. And most of them answer positively to the first question, but not so much to the other questions. And I think today was mentioned that, I think the colleague from Pakistan mentioned that in some provinces, including in Punjab, I understand, Gunther made a reference, that many citizens and civil society organizations are not aware about the mandate of ombudsman institutions. These organizations are, because, of course, the grants were given to well-known big NGO, civil society organizations in the countries, and are working on accountability issues. So they are expected to answer yes to the first questions. But when I was talking to a colleague from the Pakistan Bank office who's supporting the Ombudsman and look at the data, she said, well, here in Pakistan it's very different. Many citizens and civil society organizations are not familiar with the work of the Ombudsman. I said, well, in our case, it's expected because these organizations are working on these issues. However, I was a bit surprised about the answers for the second, the third, and fourth questions that we raised, and I hope that those will improve in the future. So, going back to the importance of working with accountability institutions as part of this broader definition of governance. Here, we acknowledge that accountability institutions are quite relevant for the support that the bank provides for governance and for governance reforms to improve development outcomes. There has been some analysis of the work that the bank has supported with accountability institutions, as you can see there. In a report commissioned to the Partnership for Transparency Fund, which is an NGO based in Washington, D.C., but is operating in many different countries, and including this region. They noted that the support to ombudsman institutions and anti-corruption agencies was much less significant than with the judiciary, legislature, and supreme institutions. And you can see there the percentages. That's a report from 2010. However, the report also stressed the importance of the World Bank to engage more actively with different types of independent accountability institutions, in improving their capacity in engaging at the project level and having these institutions helping with the monitoring and redress issues, and basically acting as third-party monitors or oversight structures for the implementation of the projects, the government projects that are funded through the World Bank loans. So here I wanted to compare with the work that we are doing with supreme institutions. Of course, this is a very well-established area, the World Bank, because financial management is an important area for our institution. But there was a report, particularly for South Asia. The colleagues working on financial management at the World Bank in the Delhi office look at the support with supreme institutions, the bank support with supreme institutions, and in 2003, most of the World Bank funded projects were already audited by supreme institutions. And this increased, of course, as we move into using what we call country systems, or basically institutions in the countries to do the work instead of hiring consultants to do the work for us. So this is interesting because these institutions were already engaged in bank-funded projects, in auditing the implementation and the results of the projects funded by the World Bank. But more importantly, if you look at the third bullet there, there were already, since 1993 to the time of that report, and that report is actually from 2013, and the sources, they are cited at the bottom of the slide. There were 18 projects in South Asia that provided $88 million to supreme institutions. So not only the institutions were engaged in auditing bank projects, but also they were getting significant resources the Supreme Institute were getting significant resources for their work. And here the collaboration with INTOSAI, which is this similar institution as IOI, but as the International Organization of Supreme Institutions, has been crucial for our dialogue with Supreme Institutions at country level. And more recently, actually a month ago, in April 2014, the World Bank announced the setup of a multi-donor trust fund to support capacity of Supreme institutions, and the government of Switzerland already contributed 5 million Swiss francs. Was the first country to do that. So I'm mentioning this because I hope in the future, I don't know how long it will take, but that we can do the same with IOI. So I'm having high expectations. But going back to what we are doing with Supreme institutions, with Ombudsman, let me briefly tell you a bit of the work that we're doing. So these are current projects that the World Bank is supporting, and with Ombudsman institutions in particular. So we are providing support to Ombudsman institutions in Pakistan in different capacities. There is what we call an institutional development fund grant to the Federal Ombudsman of Pakistan, to support the Forum on Pakistan Ombudsman. So there is a grant to support this effort, as well as some additional support at provincial level through a multi-donor trust fund, which is implementing the governance support program, the GSP, and some also financial support from the Nordic Trust Fund, NTF, to two provinces, provincial level ombudsman there. You can see the amounts. And also there is additional support to the federal tax ombudsman related with the revenue mobilization project in Pakistan. So there are three different kind of sources of funding right now in Pakistan. There is a grant, also an IDF grant to the Ombudsman of the Philippines to improve the assets disclosure system there. This is the third grant that the Ombudsman of the Philippines has received from the World Bank. So I was wondering how they managed to get three easily back-to-back grants from our institutions. Then Jordan, there is another grant to build the capacity of the Ombudsman office there in Jordan. And what is a very interesting experience is the project in Ethiopia, because that's a loan. And it's the World Bank is providing support to the Ombudsman office there as part of the Protection for Basic Services program, the third program, the third Protection Basic Services program that the bank is funding there in Ethiopia. And there is a component, the loan of course is much bigger, but there is a component on citizen engagement, which includes grievance redress mechanisms. And the funds are given to the Ombudsman of Ethiopia, and it's a $2 million fund that's being used for that specific component. As I said, the loan is much bigger. Before coming here, since I got this invitation, I decided to talk to my colleagues to understand a little bit why they are engaged with Ombudsman institutions and try to learn a little bit more about that. So as you can see here, I sent a questionnaire. Some of them fill it out and send it back to me, and others didn't have the time, so I had to call them and arrange for a call and try to get the answers. But basically I wanted to understand, and these were the questions that were asked, what sparked or what initiated the engagement, the World Bank engagement with Ombudsman institution in their respective countries? Who started the dialogue? Was the World Bank, colleagues from the World Bank? Was the government? Was the Ombudsman institution itself? And also, what was the reaction of the government of the country? Because, of course, Ombudsman institutions are independent institutions, and sometimes executive branch or governments are not excited to have our support to accountability institutions. So I just wanted to understand how that worked. What was the dialogue? I said that the primary interlocutors of the World Bank are the executive branch officials, and particularly the ministries of finance. And also I had some questions about how this fits into the broader support of other accountability institutions, including supreme institutions in the country, and if there were any lessons learned from that. And the final one was about how this fits within the broader, what we call country partnership strategy of the World Bank with each country. And as I said, we have some, we do work on governance and anti-corruption. The World Bank is currently developing a citizen engagement strategy, looking at strengthening the citizen feedback mechanisms in bank-funded projects. I mentioned the grievance redress mechanisms or social accountability work. So So the question, basically, I'm not going to address all four, but I'm going to concentrate on Ethiopia and Pakistan. As I said, there is this project that is being implemented. It's the third project, the Protection Basic Services, and there is a component that is supporting grievance redress mechanisms, and that the Ombudsman is responsible for that. And this is a result of a study that was conducted in 2011, where there was a recognition about the importance of strengthening GRM and the role of the Ombudsman there. So the objective is to, since there are different grievance redress mechanisms in different public offices in Ethiopia, the role of the Ombudsman office is actually to standardize the different processes across the public administration and also open Ombudsman regional branches across the country, and try to bring, the standards, or actually the work of these offices according to the international standards. So this is a sectoral approach to the work with Ombudsman, because Protection Basic Services cover work basically on education, health, these areas. And if there are complaints about these issues that are funded through the loan that the bank gives, the citizens can use the GRM or complain directly to the Ombudsman. So the kind of support that is provided through these $2 million is, training for the GRM officers, investigators, and other stakeholders, development of ICT systems, and also mechanisms for data collection. We're very interested in collecting data and analyzing data. I have a lot of colleagues doing that at the World Bank. They are currently conducting a study of the grievance redress mechanism and how it can be strengthened, the opening of additional branches, as I said, and also supporting communications and media awareness campaign. So what is interesting from this project is that, and this is a discussion I had with our colleagues from IOI, that I see that we are supporting a lot of complaints handling mechanisms within projects, but these mechanisms are not sustainable, because once the projects end, those mechanisms are disbanded. So how we can link with what we call country system or more institutional approaches to handling complaints. And that's where I think the role of the Ombudsman is critical. And our colleagues from Ethiopia understood it that way, and I'm happy that I can present with you this experience. The other one I wanted to mention was the one in Pakistan. As I said, we are supporting both at national, we're providing support both at national and provincial level here. And the support at the national level is for the form of Pakistan Ombudsman after the adoption of this Ombudsman Institutional Reform Act in 2013 that was mentioned earlier by the Ombudsman from Pakistan. We decided to support kind of a platform for knowledge sharing, for networking, this forum of 12 Pakistan Ombudsman institutions, both at federal and subnational or provincial level. And there are some specific pieces of work or activities that we're supporting. One of them is improving the performance of these institutions, but also is trying to see how, understand a little bit the expectations and the feedback from what we call users or beneficiaries. The work, also we're supporting through these funds some communications and outreach work. As you can see there, the newsletter in English that was produced. Some capacity building, exposure to international good practices. There was a reference to this Islamic, the organization of the Islamic conference recently in Islamabad. And then we have some other support, as I said, to the federal tax ombudsman through the review mobilization project, and there's around a little bit less than $300,000. And at the provincial level, we are supporting 2 provinces. Mostly, they are post-conflict regions, and this is a result of capacity build, post-conflict, needs assessment that was conducted by several donors there. And a trust fund was set up, a multi-donor trust fund, to implement this governance support program. So there the idea is to strengthen citizen-state interaction and also public trust in public institutions. So the bank is providing support to this process, and also to the e-citizen grievance redress system, which is a mobile application, but also using SMS in the case of the Balochistan ombudsman there. And here I hope, in my conversations with the country colleagues, I'm very hopeful as well that we can expand this work from this very kind of, ad hoc work to more systematic approaches, because in some provinces in Pakistan, some of the provinces in Pakistan have adopted what they call Right to Services Act. And I think that other countries like India have one. And I think that the ombudsman can play a critical role in that agenda. So just to summarize the different sources of funding, most of them are grants except for the loan to Ethiopia. And some of them are standalone grants. But I'm more excited with, as I said, the work in Ethiopia and the different pieces of work in Pakistan if they all come together. What we needed to do now, I didn't have enough time before coming here, was to actually interview the ombudsman offices that are implementing these projects and understand a little bit more how was their interaction with the World Bank and the implementation of these projects. So to conclude, I think it's very that, as I explained, the governance agenda is expanding, and the bank is exploring how to engage with ombudsman institutions. And for this, there are different levels. We have done some work at country level, as I recently presented, but also at the global level, the dialogue with IOI is critical to understand, how to support these institutions. When I talked to my colleagues, I asked whether they had conducted any needs assessment to understand what were the needs of these institutions. Unfortunately, I didn't get a clear answer to that, so I guess there were no assessments before providing support. But in addition to the support we can provide to capacity building, and I understand we did that, for instance, in the case of the funding for Pakistan. I understood that there were some colleagues attending training in Canada, so I guess it's the sharpening my teeth training that the Ombudsman of Ontario delivers there. In addition to the technical assistance that we can provide, and also we're interested in conducting analytic research to understand, from a more public policy, not necessarily from the legal perspective, the work of Ombudsman, understand a little bit the data that they are collecting, because that can help us also include that when we negotiate loans and negotiate projects with different countries. And ombudsman institutions have a lot of data about what citizens complain about in different sectors. And as I said, my last point is, as we finalize the development of the citizen engagement strategy at the World Bank in the coming months, and we move into implementation, particularly supporting citizen feedback mechanisms in all bank-funded projects according to the mandate of our World Bank president. I think there is a great opportunity for ombudsman institutions to engage at that level. Right now, we are not doing that. We are, as I said earlier, we are supporting specific project-level complaints mechanisms, and those may not be sustainable because once the projects end, those mechanisms are gone. But if we can link better with ombudsman institutions and use country systems, I think there will be a great potential to collaborate further with ombudsman institutions, as we are doing with Supreme Audit institutions right now when they audit most of our projects. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mindaburu, for that wealth of information from the World Bank and the work that you do. You've brought to us the history and the background of the World Bank consideration of ombudsman and our role as accountability mechanisms and as gateways for citizens into government, and the importance of that role of complaint handling, as well as the results of that interesting May 12th survey of NGOs about their relationships and knowledge of ombudsman. We appreciate also your showing us the world map of where there is an intersection between World Bank projects and ombudsman, and also the work that you've done in Ethiopia and Pakistan, and the survey of your World Bank colleagues and possible future plans. So thank you very much for that information. There are a number of common themes, but I'm only going to touch on one because because I want people to have an opportunity for their questions. I think one is the Ombudsman and technology and the media, both access to data, open information systems, access to information and data, and strengthening that, as well as some control about data protection that emerged at the same time. The emergence of social networks and the virtual world that we have as related to that technological issues. So now I'm going to give you all an opportunity to ask questions of the panelists. So I'd like to see your hands go up, and we'll take as many as we possibly can in the time we have left. Yes, ma'am.
질문의 기회를 주셔서 감사합니다. 저는 국민권익위원회 김영수입니다. 저는 윈터 크래우터 사무총장님께 질문을 드리고 싶습니다. 오전에 강의에서도 들었던 것처럼 그 각국의 옴부즈만은 그 태생적인 자국법 안에서 한계를 가지고 있었습니다. 어떤 권고사항이 제대로 이행되지 않을 경우 별다른 제재를 할 수가 없었습니다. 그래서 이런 각국이 처한 공통적인 그 태생적 한계를 극복하기 위해서 IOA가 하는 노력이 있다면 설명해 주시기를 요청드립니다.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much for this question. And please allow me, before one word to Marcos. Thank you for your support again, and please relax. The IOI do not expect 5 million from the World Bank. We are very satisfied with 4 million. To your question, I think this problem all ombudsman institutions have. Recommendations sometimes are accepted, sometimes they are not accepted. And maybe it's possible to strengthen all our member institutions to develop a policy to strengthen the institution against the officials and the governments. Maybe it can be a point for the future.
Thank you. We're ready for the next question. Please.
One for Marcus, really. I was intrigued by the horizontal accountability mechanism approach and wondered if you thought there was merit in the various accountability agencies in countries coming together to produce maybe an annual statement on the state of the nation, so to speak, where they pooled their knowledge about the government so that the Ombudsman might meet with the senior audit institution and other regulatory bodies to give an overview of how things were going in their particular country.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Peter. This will be my personal answer, not the World Bank official answer, but interesting that you're asking that because I think it's a very challenging work to facilitate the coordination of the different accountability institutions to come together. And sometimes I was discussing this with Gunther after lunch, is sometimes politicians deliberately create different institutions with overlapping mandates so the system doesn't work because you need all these institutions to collaborate in order to actually reach the result that you want. I think it's very difficult. In fact, the work in Pakistan is a result because we have a governance team on the ground in the Islamabad office, and they look at all the accountability institutions. And in the case of one of the projects at the provincial level, we are not only providing support to the Ombudsman, but we are providing support for the implementation of the Right to Information Act, and there is an Information Commission, which is another accountability institution. We are providing support for judicial training, and we are also providing support for an anti-corruption hotline. So in a way, we have done that work, but I would love to have the accountability institutions coming together. We tried that in a country in the past, in Latin America, and it didn't work. And as I said, executive branch officials don't feel very comfortable working with one accountability institution. If we bring all them together, probably that would be even more challenging, I would say.
Thank you very much. Next question, please. Yes, sir.
세 분의 좋은 발표 감사합니다. 저는 국민권익위원회 김성훈입니다. 이번에 공통 주제는 각국에서 전부 다 옴부즈만을 도입해가지고 시민들의 그 삶을 더 낫게 보장하기 위해서 노력하고 있는 공통점이 있지만 각국에서 그 처한 그 옴부즈만의 역할이라든가 직면한 상황들은 조금씩 차이가 있는 것 같습니다. 예를 들면 아까 이란 감찰원 그 옴부즈만께서 발표하셨듯이 이란 같은 경우는 거버먼트 다운사이징 문제나 그 프라이빗테이션 이런 문제들에 대해서 고민을 하고 있는 것 같고요. 저희 위원회 국민권익위원회 같은 경우는 집단 민원이 증가해가지고 이 집단 민원을 어떻게 조정을 잘할 것이냐 아니면 우리가 가지고 있는 역량의 부족 문제를 민간 부분의 역량을 끌어들여서 어떻게 이걸 활용할 것이냐 이런 부분에 이제 고민을 하고 있는데 중요한 것은 다른 나라에서는 그와 유사하게 사례들에서 어떻게 경험했는지 이런 걸 공유하는 이런 것들이 필요한데 그런 측면에서 IOI와 AO 역할은 매우 중요하다고 생각합니다. 아까 IOI 사무총장님께서 각국의 옴부즈만의 독특한 경험과 사례들을 연구하는 기관으로서 이제 오스트리아 비엔나 대학에서 연구하고 있다고 했는데 지금 이런 컨퍼런스와 같은 간헐적인 모임을 통해서 정보를 공유한다면 제한적이라고 생각합니다. 그래서 IO에서 좀 더 이 정보를 공유할 수 있는 인프라를 구축하는데 더 노력을 해줬으면 하는 바람입니다. 그래서 각국에서 1년 동안에 경험한 독특한 경험과 사례들을 요약해서 IO에 공동 연구하는 그런 기관들에 보내주면 거기서 유사성과 차이점 이런 걸 분석해서 또 각국에 전파하고 그런 사이트를 운영해서 시간과 공간의 제약 없이 언제든지 거기 들어가서 필요한 정보를 얻을 수 있도록 이런 인프라 구축에 많은 도움을 줬으면 하고요. 아까 그 월드뱅크에서 각국 기관의 그 옴부즈만을 지원하기 위해서 재정적으로 많은 역할들을 하고 있는 것에 감사드리고요. 그런 각국의 지원 역할 외에 좀 더 여유가 있다면 IOI라든가 AOA에서 그런 정보 공유를 할 수 있는 인프라를 구축하는데 좀 더 많은 투자를 해주시면 어떨까 이런 생각이 듭니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much. Mr. Crowder's anxious to answer your question, to comment on that.
Thank you very much for your question. In my opinion, our IOI organization is a permanent learning organization and strategic planning is our daily business. Every idea and every proposal is welcome. And we try to support all our member organizations and we try to work together more intensive in the future with other international organizations. And so we are very happy to have a memorandum of understanding in the future between the IOI and the AOA. And for example, together with the JACA, the Anti-Corruption Academy from Vienna, we can develop a special kind of training and offer it in the Asia region. For example, maybe Thailand is a possible host. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question. We have a few more minutes. Please join me in thanking the panel for their excellent presentations. Thank you.